Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This discussion video is something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I don't see it being discussed basically anywhere because, I don't know, is it taboo? Is it not something that artists in general think about? I don't know, but my discussion topic that's really important, and I think a lot of artists forget, is that discipline is much more important for a long-term professional artist than it is for inspiration. Why do I say that? Because how many times have I seen artists say, I'm not feeling inspired right now, so I'm not going to write, or I'm not inspired, so I can't write. And then you have months or even years at a time where they're not writing, and then artists are upset that they don't have anything to write about, or they don't have a finished book to edit, or whatever it may be. And I understand that inspiration is definitely important to get an idea, and definitely pushes you and it motivates you to, because you're pumped up, you're like, oh, I'm inspired to write my 5th book, I'm really excited, and then you sit down and you write. However, inspiration is fleeting. It doesn't stay around for very long. I definitely know that, because I was, there was a good chunk of my young years, I'm still young, but my young teen years, where I said, I can only write when I'm inspired. And, yeah, my first book sat for years at a time because I wasn't inspired. It just sat there. I didn't do anything with it. And I felt guilty because I couldn't find any inspiration, because I was going through a lot of personal issues at that time. And then I got to the point where, oh, well, if I don't feel any inspiration to write, like all these other writers are saying, that you have to be inspired to write, and that's the point of the artist, to be inspired to create art, then, well, maybe I'm not a writer. Maybe I'm not an artist. So I set my first book aside for, like over 10 years. Didn't touch it. Then, I come back and I'm thinking about it and I say, wait, I could have sat down on my butt in my chair in front of my computer and I could have worked through this. Why didn't I do that? Because there's a lot of writing advice that comes out of the internet, or even in writing classes, not just the internet, but in writing classes where you're, in a circle and you're talking and people have their own ideas, which is great, but especially for young artists, I think it's detrimental to say that you need inspiration to motivate you, and if you don't have inspiration, then, skip that day or that week or month, because inspiration is the most important thing. No, I'm gonna call BS on that. And I think more people need to understand that discipline and making it a habit to write down for, even if it's 30 minutes a day, however many words it is, whatever you want to do as a goal per day or every other day, whatever it may be, that's what matters. Because if you don't sit down in your chair in front of your computer or your laptop, whatever you need to do, you sit your butt in that chair and you write for X amount of time. You edit for X amount of time. And if you don't, then you should feel a bit bad about yourself, because discipline. You rather, watch YouTube videos for 4 hours, where you could even just for 1 hour write for that day. But you don't want to. Okay. That's your choice. That's your book. That's your poem. That's your short story. That's gonna be on you ultimately. I can't tell you or anyone what to do. I can only say, for me, that discipline is the most important thing in a professional artist's life. If you're looking for a long-term goal as an artist, and it's not even just about writing, but if you're a painter, sculptor, whatever it may be, you need to set time out of your day or every other day, whatever you can do, and make it a habit. I sit down after I have a cup of coffee and I edit and or write for about 3 hours a day as of right now. Is that going to change to probably 1 hour a day in the near future? Probably. Am I gonna sit down even though I'm tired and I'm probably stressed and I might not even want to do it, but am I gonna do it? Yes, because long-term goals and short-term goals are important, putting it together in a habitual, disciplined way. I'm going to force my emotions down and I'm going to logically say, I need to write for an hour to get this chapter completed because I'm only, for example, 5 chapters away from finishing a first draft. I want to finish that first draft. I hate drafting, I prefer editing. So whatever I need to do to get that first draft gone and where I can edit, and editing's way easier for me, then I will do that. I will do whatever it takes to get that first draft done. And it's hard for me to draft. It's fun half the time. And this is where the discipline really comes in to play, because if I don't think something is fun for the majority of the time, then I don't want to do it. But I think editing is fun like 90% of the time. But what do I need to edit? I need a first completed draft that makes some semblance of, like, it makes sense. Some understanding. It flows. There's not too many plot holes. We need to have set goals, and that means, for me, sitting down 3-4 hours a day or every other day to write. If I already have a first draft, then the editing is so easy that I don't need to force myself to do it. The 3-4 hours go by in a blink of an eye. Some people love first drafting. They love drafting, they hate editing. So then it's going to be a reverse for you. So you can, get out a first draft fairly easily. And then it comes to editing. And that's when you have to make editing a habit, where it's every day, every other day, twice a week, whatever it is. There's a plan, and the plan is in place, and you don't waver from that plan unless it's, you have to go to the emergency because you broke your arm or something. You have to set up your own goals, and if you're really bad at discipline and you're working towards it, then you have to set up consequences as well. So rewards and consequences, I should say. So if you have, really bad discipline and you haven't written for months, so you want to set up a writing plan to write 3 days a week for, let's say, 1 hour. You don't want to go too overboard, especially if you don't have, it's not a habit for you, and you only work by inspiration. The people that only work by inspiration, the majority of them are very sporadic, and it takes them a really long time to write a book. The majority. I'm saying the majority because I'm sure people in the comment section are saying, I only write by inspiration and I write every single day for 5 hours a day. Great. Okay. I'm talking about the majority of people. That used to be me. That have taken breaks because they feel guilty because they're not inspired, or they're not inspired so they don't, write and just put around the internet with cute cat videos, which is, it's good to, relax a bit. But if you're watching cute cat videos every day when you could be writing, there's a problem. So if you're one of those people, you have to start small, like let's say 3 days a week for an hour. And you create a reward system where if I do this I complete every day, then you give yourself a reward, like, I don't know, your favorite cookie, or you go out for a walk. I don't know if people will reward themselves with walks. I'm just coming up with random stuff. And then if it doesn't happen, where, you know, you just decide to write, you write for 10 minutes and the rest of the 50 minutes you're watching cat videos, what's your consequence for doing that? Other than that you didn't, you know, write for an hour and you didn't move towards that goal. Maybe you don't get pizza for that week because you really love pizza and you look forward to pizza, but for those 3 days, for 1 hour, you really only wrote for 45 minutes. That's happened to me before. I'm laughing at myself. That's what really I had to do. I actually set up consequences versus rewards, because I'm more of that type of person where if there's consequences for my actions, then my brain remembers that more. You could be the one that type of person where it's, oh, you know, you set up rewards, so my brain understands rewards, you know, better than the consequences. My brain's a little bit negative. And the negative, pessimistic, me trying to get into a realistic sphere of thinking, so consequences work for me. They might not work for you. So there's either rewards and consequences, or you can do both. I think both would be really good for younger people, especially when, you know, they're 16, but they're really into writing and that's what they want to do. And they already know for a fact that that's going to be a professional, they're looking at it in a professional way, not just as a hobby. I would set up rewards and consequences to get into the habit and the discipline of sitting down and doing your work. What, you know, my godmother said when I was younger and I didn't understand it until high school, do your homework first on a Friday night, and then you have Saturday and Sunday to have fun. But you need the discipline to understand that doing, you know, 4 hours of homework on a Friday night does suck. But what's worse, having Friday, Saturday, and Sunday doing all your homework versus having Saturday and Sunday to do whatever you want. That's why if you're on a schedule and you make writing a habit and you have the discipline to stick to your scheduling and your goals and your future plans, you know, all 3 of those, then it becomes really easy, and it's also very comforting. You go through your daily schedule and then you have a set time. You're like, oh, you know, that's when I just release everything, and for that hour, I know for a fact that I'm writing and there's nothing else going on unless it's an emergency. And that's where the saying discipline equals freedom, I think, is very important to, you know, just think about, to mull over and try to understand that in a freeing manner, especially when it comes to writing or just art in general. Art is very chaotic, and anything that is grounding, that you know is going to be there no matter what, like your schedule of 3 days a week, writing 1 hour per day, that's very grounding. And you can definitely add on to that, but the minimum, you have to have a plan and the discipline for a minimum of, let's say again, 3 days a week, 3 hours, you know, per week. I think it's very weird that discipline is never really talked about, and it's like only inspiration. A lot of writers talk about goals, but like if you don't have the discipline to sit down and write, then you're not going to reach your goals in the first place. So I do see a lot about motivation. Like, I don't have the motivation to write. That ties into discipline and making it a habit. If you don't have motivation, is it connected to inspiration, or are you just being lazy? I mean, how many times have I been not motivated to write and I decide to watch TV? A lot of the time. And I'm choosing to be a little lazy instead of doing what I need to do. We all have those moments. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. But it means that you have something to work on, that you need to get better at something. That's not a diss at me or anyone. That's just what humans need to do. You need to stop relying definitely on inspiration to make you sit in that seat in front of your computer and start writing, and even not rely on feeling motivated as well, especially if you're, say, in the editing phase and you have 3 completed books, but you're not motivated to edit any of them because you don't like editing. That's when you have to decide, are you going to be a professional artist, or are you just, someone that loves to write as a hobby? And you just like sharing your writing. You don't want to be published. You don't want to be a professional writer. That's I would say that's completely different from what we're talking about. And that's obviously perfectly acceptable. But if you're looking to be a professional author, whether that's self-published, traditionally published, whatever that is, we're still in the same vein of, you need more than just inspiration and motivation. You need discipline. And you need to make your writing schedule into an actual schedule. You need to plan it out. You need to have goals, and you need to make it a habit. That's how you get into the feel of making your own space, bringing up your confidence, and then inspiration and motivation will come. But if they don't come, you know for a fact that, I have the discipline to sit down and write for that hour out of that day, even though I don't want to. It's like, even though you write something and you have to trash it because it doesn't work, that just means that you know what not to write next time. I think that's really important. And a lot of people that I've noticed that write based on inspiration, they're very nervous about writing something that's not good and then having to trash it. But if you have the discipline to write for X amount of hours and X amount of days, then you know that the next time you can fix it, versus, oh, I wrote like 5 bad chapters. Well, I just wasted my inspiration, so I feel depressed and I'm not going to write for another 6 months. You see where I'm coming from? What sounds better to you? You have, 5 chapters that suck and it's not gonna work, so you trash it. But you know that you have the time and the goals and the habits and the discipline to say, well, that's not what I wanted, but in 2 days, I'm going to fix it. Versus, I have 5 chapters. I wrote that based on inspiration that I felt out of the blue, and I feel depressed and angry with myself because I just wasted my time, because I haven't written for 2 months, so now I'm going to not write for another 5 months. I would say the first sounds better. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, you want to rage at me because I said that discipline is more important than inspiration and motivation, because it is, just saying, then you can always comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great writing day. Bye.